All right, Poetry Thursday. So, go, Dr. Jennie, go.
I will go, but not before I read you a poem. This is a poem by a writer called Jen Hadfield, and it's a poem about all sorts of things, but particularly about two musical instruments. And it's called Hardanger Fiddle Nyckelharpa. So help me, I would rather write a song, a wordless song for the strings of the north, Hardanger Fiddle and Nyckelharpa, like jewels hewn in flaxen wood, keys a delicate overbite. Elfish devices in mother of pearl, like nights the sea calms paler than the sky, short bow, light enough to touch the nerves of the north, fretful in a shiver of sympathetic strings, feeling in their flat chests how close the night is moored to silence. Bored wind growling in the bars of the gate, purr of surge when the night is still. So help me, write a song of unsettling grace, perhaps an old folk dance in a weird time signature, a gawky waltz, a lonely march. Gone off at a tangent, popped back to say it was just a random thought, an interrupted cadence, a whistle under the breath. Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, so how did you come across that one?
I started listening to Frank Skinner's poetry podcast because I like Frank Skinner, and because he talks like me, and because somebody I know used to know him. And this was one of the first. What he does in his poetry podcast is he'll take a poet and kind of dissect one or two of their poems to help you understand how poetry works. And this was in one of the first programmes I listened to, and I just thought it was amazing, and bought the book. So this forms part of my sub-collection. Frank Skinner made me buy that book.
Excellent. So the book is The Stone Age.
The Stone Age by
Jen Hadfield,
yeah.
and it's Picador.
Yeah.
But these instruments then, I mean, they sound pretty amazing.
They are.
Will we have heard them ever?
Yeah, strangely, you probably will if you've seen Lord of the Rings. So a Hardanger fiddle is like an ordinary fiddle, except that instead of having 4 strings, it's got 8 or 9 strings, 4 or 5 of which you play, and the remaining strings kind of run under the fingerboard, and they're sympathetic strings, so they vibrate according to the vibrations of the strings above them, so you get this kind of very sparkly sound. And if you've seen Lord of the Rings, when you meet the riders of Rohan, and there's the kind of Rohan theme that goes da 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 da, a lot of that is played on a Hardanger fiddle. So it gives it a slightly otherworldly kind of, haven't heard. So they're both come from Scandinavian countries. That Hardanger fiddle is Norwegian, and the Nyckelharpa, which I don't think I've ever heard, and it's an incredibly complicated looking piece of kit.
Hopefully we can put some pictures
up. That's from Sweden, and it's kind of like a violin in the way it's strung, and it's got sympathetic strings as well, but it plays more like a hurdy-gurdy. So a hurdy-gurdy has got strings that run across a wheel, and the wheel is attached to a handle, and then the neck has got keys on it, and to play it you turn the handle so it makes the strings vibrate, and then you play the tune on the keys. A Nyckelharpa works in much the same way, except it hasn't got the wheel and the handle. It's got a short bow, but you still play the tune on the keys, which she describes as a delicate overbite. So you play the I'm actually miming it here. You can't see me. You play the tune with the keys, and you bow it in a kind of continuous motion with this short bow. It works the same way the wheel does on a hurdy-gurdy. As I say, I don't think I've ever heard I have heard of hurdy-gurdy, but I don't think I've ever heard of Nyckelharpa.
Okay.
But that might change because I might go and look for one now.
Yeah, why not?
To listen to. So yeah.
Brilliant.
Jen Hadfield,
Yep.
Frank Skinner, Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yes. Just to be clear, the poem's nothing to do with Lord of the Rings.
No,
That's
the poem's to do with
where we will have heard the music.
where you'll have heard the
Everyone's
music.
heard it,
Yes. Well, you will have heard a Hardanger Fiddle. The poem's nothing to do with Lord of the Rings. In fact,
unless it is.
I think
the elf connection.
Yeah, well, because the other thing about a Hardanger Fiddle is what's the line? Something about elfish devices in mother of pearl. The body of the fiddle is decorated with mother of pearl inlays.
Oh, nice.
Quite richly decorated, and black ink drawings in kind of scroll work, which you'll see in the picture that Mr. Roy is going to put.
Yes, yeah.
We hope. So that's the elvish devices. Frank Skinner didn't link it to Lord of the Rings in his programme.
Good.
So I doubt he knows the Lord of the Rings connection. Or he might, I don't know. He doesn't strike me as a Lord of the Rings sort of bloke, really.
Well, I thought Lord of the Rings was essentially set in the Midlands, but...
some of it comes from...
Yes, he has something of the elf about him.
Frank Skinner, he does, doesn't he? Yeah. I'm sure he wouldn't.
In debased form.
What, you mean like he's an orc?
Yeah.
Let's go in the game a bit, mate.
He was an orc.
It's lovely. I love Frank Skinner.
Right then.
Shall I shut up?
No, never.
Okay, thank you.
You should have mother of pearl inlays.
I should, and black ink scroll work.
Alrighty.
Okay.
See you, everybody.
Bye. Try a bit. See you later.